son became an adult and actually started the mission where she, she was still his mother, but now she was also a follower of her son. So she's in that dual role. And I'm sort of looking at, like, my daughters in that same light. It's like they're now adults. And yes, I've stepped back. I'm no longer quote unquote, I had, it's my responsibility that this happens, but now I have to step back and it's now all in them. And if they come to me for advice, I give it. I try to, I'll say that I try to stay out of their business, but yeah, but every now and then I got to say something. I'll be like, I don't know about that, but other than that, I try to stay in that role of, if they come to me, I give my advice and I give it freely, and I'm definitely praying for them all the time. Yeah, so I think that's the interesting part about having adult children, and trying not to, and every now, but now that we got a grandson, it's like we get to start over. But then I'm like, oh no, this ain't my baby, so it's not my responsibility. Here, here you go. Yeah. Yeah, never a friend. No. Yeah, mom and dad. But okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you do kind of still, even though they're adults, you still kind of get into that. Yeah, you tell me you're grown. Oh, yeah. Suddenly, that you see him back at being 12 years old, trying to break bad. You don't see the adult women in your face. But yeah, so we're talking about Mary, the loyal mother. Devotional reading came from Revelations 12, 1 through 6. Background scriptures are Luke 1, 26 through 56, Luke 2, 15 through 19, John 2, 1 through 5, and John 19, 25 through 27. That's our background scriptures, and we will be dealing with our main scriptures will be Luke 2:15 through 19, John 2, 1 through 5, and John 19, 25 through 27. And again, each one of those blocks of scriptures is dealing with a different part of her life within the ministry of her son, starting at the beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, now that's the one area, I don't envy her at all, is watching, even though she stayed there and watched it all, is watching her son be killed by the crucifixion. All right, so let's go with the introduction, and then we're going to go into the lesson context, because we're going to deal with Luke's portion as far as the context of that, and then we're also going to look at the context of John's portion of this lesson. All right, introduction, hidden treasures. My children love a good mystery, and we often listen to podcasts as a family when we travel. It is common for us to choose enigmatic tales. One such recent story involved the so-called eighth wonder of the world, Prussia's Amber Room. The Amber Room was built between 1701 and 1714 for King Frederick I of Prussia. It was given to Peter the Great, the Tsar of Russia, and moved to the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg in 1716. I forgot about that, yeah. The Amber Room was considered one of Russia's most beloved artifacts. For 200 years, a cultural treasure, but the Nazis stole the room in 1941. It was reconstructed in Germany and then disassembled and packed up for the protection from the war in 1944. No one has seen it since. Yeah, there was a lot of artifacts during World War II that were taken by the Nazis that no one has seen since. And they packed them away, stored them, but they just haven't been able to find all of those artifacts. So yeah, so this is one of those. No one has seen it since. Historians believe it is stored in crates in the basement of a castle museum that collapsed from wartime bombing, which is possibly true. In pictures of the replica, the amber room glows with golden light. It is a wonder to behold. Unfortunately, its beauty was stolen and hidden, resulting in great loss. Today's lesson tells of a different kind of hidden treasure. The identity, capabilities, and calling of the Lord, Jesus Christ, it focuses on Jesus' mother, Mary, and how she trusted the slow unfolding of Jesus's person and work. Again, being a parent, that's one of those things where you watch this person that you raise become more than you expect sometimes. Watching them grow and then become their own person, and you were part of that, but after a certain point, you have to, like I said, you take your hands off and let them grow on their own. And it's a behold to watch some of our children become what they are. And sometimes it doesn't always end well. Many a parent has had to deal with that fact where it doesn't go the way they thought it was going to go, but others have the joy of seeing it, go in a direction that they didn't even expect. And then in Jesus' case, you didn't expect this, but then the end is this. But then you come to realization after the fact that it had to be this way. And to watch it go, like I said, my personal feelings on Mary have changed a lot. Just, certain lessons that we read that you realize, put yourself in her shoes. Yeah, she was a regular girl. Yeah, she was a normal mother. She did what normal mother stuff did, but then you put the fact that she's raising Jesus. And she's part of that ministry. She actually becomes a member of her own son's ministry. She's a follower as well as his mother. So it's kind of an ironic position to be put into. And, like we said earlier, was she any different from any mother? No. Not especially. Was she different from any virgin girl? No, not especially. But then you look a little bit deeper, which we're going to do in this lesson, you find out there were some personality traits that were necessary to be the mother of Jesus that not every mother could do. All right, lesson context, dealing with the Luke portion. Luke 2:1 sets Jesus' birth narrative during the reign of Caesar Augustus. That's 27 BC to AD 14. Augustus was a powerful ruler, and his supporters heralded him as the savior of the world. Because he brought peace to the Roman Empire, Luke tells us that Caesar Augustus decreed a census. The purpose of such a decree was to determine who was subject to taxation and military service. Taxation and military service. The census required that the people return to their familiar hometowns. It also served as a reminder that Rome ruled the world, especially for those who lived in small, far-off provinces like Palestine. Thus, Mary and Joseph journeyed the 90 miles from Nazareth to North Galilee, southward to Bethlehem. There they had a baby. Luke's gospel provides many details about Mary's and her experience. More than any other gospel, Luke records the angel Gabriel's visit, Mary's miraculous conception. We see that in Luke 1:26-28. He also describes Mary's visit to her cousin Elizabeth's home, and a special reception received. We see that also in Luke 39-45. Luke records Mary's worship song of praise to God, known as the Magnificent, and her example of faithful trust in God's plan. All right, so again, we get to delve into a little bit of her character as a young woman based on her faithfulness through Luke's rendering of the birth. All right, now lesson context on John. Today's text from the Gospel of John acts as a bookend to Jesus' life and ministry. They focus on two times that Jesus' mother is mentioned. The first is at the wedding of Cana, and the second is at Jesus' crucifixion. The first passage has no parallel text in the Synoptic Gospels. So this is one of those portions, that only is different from the others. And again, we know that the Synoptic Gospels are called that because they run parallel to each other, but they're from different perspectives based on the writers, their account. So John's might be a little bit different than Luke's because Luke went back and sort of talked to, he did like he's more like a reporter. So he did he talked to all the witnesses, he talked to everybody. So his was a little bit more detailed, whereas the other brothers are talking from almost from their perspective. And, like, hey, I remember Witchcott was there. Maybe I should talk to him to help me out, to kind of remember what's going on. You know how we do. We got 5 friends sitting at the same party, but we all remember different facets of that same party. And if we talk to each other, it's like, no, man, that's not how it went. And then the other one's like, no, I'm sure it went that way. No, I don't think so. This is what actually happened. So that's what we're dealing with is like, they're telling the same story, but from different perspectives based on their eyewitness and those around them as well. Whereas I think Luke was the one that sort of tried to collect everybody's witness. So there's going to be some, based on the audience too. Yeah, that too. Yeah. Were the actual, So they were part of the community, whereas, John wasn't. So you got that too, that perspective as well. Jew versus Gentile. Part of the group, not part of the group. Latecomer, new, I've been there since the beginning. So there's certain things that, we know. Like I said, you got 5 friends, same place, each one of us, and then somewhere in the mix, you find out, that event happened. So from John's perspective, we see parallel text, right? So he's the only one that he tells a story that's not doesn't appear in everybody else's. All right, so again, we're talking about Mary, and we've always said, was she any different than anybody else? Any other young woman that was about to be betrothed? On the surface, no. She was a girl of her time. They were all supposed to be that way. So she wasn't doing anything that was different from everybody else of that time period, of her culture. Everything was above board and done that way, but she was chosen to be the mother of Jesus, the carrier of the Savior of the world. And based on this, let's look at Luke 2:15 through 19. We're going to find out that she had the personality to deal with this. All right, so Luke 2:15 and 19. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them in heaven, the shepherds said one to another, let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told to them concerning this child. And all they that heard and wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. So what do we see about Mary in this passage? Because she's only mentioned in that one verse, verse 19. But what do we get from Mary in that one verse? What do we see about her character in that one verse? I'm asking the class before I give you my answer. What do you see in Mary? You got to say down the. You know better. We got an audience.
Well, says that she was very quiet, so she's obviously very humble.
Okay.
Not as actually being impregnated by a spirit. That's something to be amazed about.
Yeah, right. Right.
She didn't boast or anything like that.
Right.
That I was carrying,
Yeah.
the Messiah or anything like that. She just kept quiet.
Yeah. She kept quiet, pondered all these things in her mind. So you get like she had a quiet nature. She was humble. She didn't seem easily excitable either. Based on the several times that I've seen the birth of a child, I wasn't that contemplative in the moment. I was a little, like overwhelmed, brain shut down. That's my baby, close to fainting, that kind of stuff. So, that she took all of this in, took the visitors coming in, the fact that she was having a baby in a stall, all of those different things, and she just took it all in and just pondered on it and kept it quiet, kept it to herself. Says she's contemplative, she's patient, she's humble, she's all of those different things, all in that one sentence. That's all you get a glimpse of her. And we're talking about, this is a young woman too. And she's wrapped up in this event where she's not pregnant by her husband. She's already dealt with the fact that the angels have come and told her who this child was going to be, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and this is what's going to happen. And then she's in this manger in the middle of this big, huge event, and yet she's quiet and everybody else is doing all the talking. She's contemplative and all that. So you get sort of a glimpse of her in that moment. And I'm wondering at that time, in that contemplative state that she's in, does she see the end? Or are there hopes and dreams that every other mother has for their child? Those what they want them to be when they grow up, or seeing that in those moments. If all of that's wrapped in there, I'm surmising because it's not, written out. I'm just thinking about those things. It's like, is she sitting there thinking about all of that? Or is she trying to wrap her mind around the fact that this is the Messiah that we've been reading about and being told about all these years? This is the Messiah. Because that's what the shepherds were saying. That's what the Magi were saying. That's what everybody else was saying when they came up. This is who this child is.
Further in that chapter.
Right.
Also, verse 51, she did the same thing when Jesus was in the temple. She kept quiet.
Yeah, she kept quiet.
When he was preaching, I guess at 12 years old.
Yeah, 12 years old, yeah, and, right.
Anyone would probably be amazed at what he, was able to do.
Or, if your child stood up in the middle of service and got up on the pulpit.
Right. She just kept quiet.
Yeah, she kept quiet and let him do it.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
Yeah, she let him go. That you think about that. How many of you mothers would have let your child get up in the pulpit? I'm not even talking about the preaching part. I'm just talking about walking up to the pulpit like they belong up in the pulpit. Yeah, we didn't even like ours running around. I can't even imagine them walking up to the pulpit. I think Taylor, Gabby, and Nika would got snatched up by their mom before they even made it to the stair, much less get into the pulpit. I wouldn't even have to do anything. You would have seen her move so fast.
I was just thinking about Mary. She was told this by some angels.
Yes.
Correct?
Right.
Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
What was the mindset of Mary when she was told this was going to happen miraculously,
right,
without having intercourse?
Right.
What was her mindset? Well, did she believe? Did she have faith enough to believe what the angels told her?
Apparently, based on her, the mention of how the worship song she had to praise God about it, And then I guess the visit with Elizabeth, there was a conversation about that, and I think that's one of the things where you see a glimpse of who she is. Is like she handled it.
She handled it well.
Yeah, she handled it well.
But did she believe it in the beginning? Did she believe that this was going to happen based on what the angels said? Because sometimes it's like us. Do we believe what God said to us
Right.
in the beginning? And sometimes if we don't believe, when we don't believe, or even though I don't know if she believed or not, but it happened.
Yeah, it happened.
And we don't believe sometimes the things of God when God tells us.
You know what? That's an interesting question, because I wonder about that. I wonder if, and I'm coming from a perspective of us, because you put us in there, because apparently, the way it reads, I think Mary believed.
Because what he told her don't make sense.
Right. It doesn't make sense, but I think she believed because the angel told her. Because he didn't say, don't doubt. He did say something about, I think he came along the lines of like, fear not. But then he told her that everything that's going to happen, and she didn't disregard that. So, but I'm also thinking about us. I think, this is me thinking, that God, when he comes to us and tells us stuff, is because he knows we believe. But he has to get us over that hump of that one little lingering doubt. But he knows that we believe. I think it's more to push, to make it obvious to us that it's going to happen. I'm telling you it's happening because I know you believe it's going to happen, but I need you to know it's going to happen. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like he's overcoming the no, overcoming the obstacle by telling us that. Because then there's some cases where he doesn't tell us, but we believe. Right? There's been many a prayer that we put up where like, I know it's going to happen because I asked for it to happen and I believe it's going to happen. But then there's moments where like, I'm not really sure. And then he has to come in and say, yeah, it's going to happen. So he's overcoming the objection, overcoming the no, classic salesman speak. They give you 5-10 points to overcome the no. They know you, they've been doing this so long that this is one of the answers they're going to give you. And this is how you overcome that answer. So I think sometimes that God has to deal with us that way to overcome that. I'm not sure about that, or that doubt that's going to creep in. But then also in those times where the doubt does try to creep in, you can go back and say, well, the Lord told me this was going to happen. I can hold on to something, where sometimes we don't need to hold on to anything. We just automatically believe. But then there's other times where, like standing on that bus. Yes. In any doubt. Yeah, she believed because that got rid of all of that. That overcame all of those no's, those objections. Yeah. Yeah, I'm letting him get away with not talking in the mic, but that's okay. You know what? I might get him his own mic. I'll go do that in a little bit. But yeah. So to answer your question, that's what I think happened with her, is that this overcame, because again, this is out of the norm. This doesn't happen. And when it does happen, God has to come in. He has to. He's got to come in on his own, or he sends a messenger to get this through. Because we're talking about, think about Abram and Sarai. They in their hundreds, almost 100, and he talk about you got to convince me that I'm about to have a baby. There's no way you get around that. This isn't normal. Yes, we live to 100 and something years, but after a certain point, nothing works like that no more.
You say that right here.
Yeah.
Back in those days, some of them laughed. and
Yeah.
what the
Oh,
God
yeah.
said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you never heard anything what Mary
Mary,
said,
right.
anything.
And that's my point.
She
It's
didn't
like,
say anything.
Yeah.
She just believed what he said.
yeah. She just believed. And I think, again, that shows us a little bit of her character. In each one of those moments, we get a glimpse of who she is. But I also think she sets sort of the standard for mothers. It's a high bar. I'll give you that. It is a high bar, but there's something. I've watched many a mother. I watched my mother. I watched my wife, Sister Hall, every other mother that's been in here. I've watched how they deal with their children, and there's things that God has told them about their child, and they hold on to, and they will not let that go. No matter what situation that child finds themselves in, they will not let that go because they know what God told them. Whether they see it in this life or the next, it doesn't matter. They will hold on to that. And I find that awe-inspiring because as the father, we have a different perspective. We've got to make the conscious choice to be there. Because after a certain point, we're no longer connected to the situation. We were there when the conception was, and then we can step back. And some guys have stepped all the way back and won't even claim. But then there's others that make that conscious choice to be there and to be all in. And we sort of have that luxury where the mother doesn't have that luxury because she's got to carry the child and do all those different things. She's sharing her body with this child while I can sit there and like, oh, that's so nice. It's beautiful. I can do all those things and I could tiptoe out and just disappear. So, it's sort of awe-inspiring to see that from that moment she believed. And then we get to this moment where she's also, again, contemplating the fact that they're talking about her son. She just gave birth to the Messiah, and she's taking that all in. So let's get to the next example of her character. All right. John 2:1-5. And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee. And the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, you know what, I'm going to laugh through that whole verse because I got to remind people that's not grape juice. If it was grape juice, it would be called grape juice. Wine is fermented grape juice. I don't know why, for some reason, when I was a kid, we used to get told, we ask about it, it's like, but they're drinking wine. It's like, no, that was grape juice. No, it's fermented. It was wine. I don't know why they wanted to sugarcoat that or, whatever. Like they drank wine. Okay. It said, not to excess. That's what it said. It saith unto him, they have no wine, which is in this culture, you're talking about, that's an embarrassment. When you run out of stuff during the middle of a big event, that's a social faux pas, as it were. You ever been to an event where it was bigger than people actually expected it to be, and then it ran out of food? What usually ends up happening? When you go to an event like that, where the food starts to... Yeah. The mood changes quick, don't it? Yeah, especially if they pay for it. Thank you, Elder Ward. When you pay for that and the food starts to dry up, the drinks, people get hot real quick. The festivity suddenly just goes out of the place. Everybody was happy just a minute ago, and you find out you go up there and the chicken's gone, the meatballs are gone. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody like them meatballs. Yeah, the Swedish meatballs, yeah. That sauce, yeah. And all of a sudden you go in there and there's nothing but sauce. People get salty real quick. Yeah. man. I think we were just at one where it actually, they set it up for a number of people, but then it, like, I guess, somebody told a friend of a friend of a friend, and more people showed up than were supposed to be there. And we had to go out to Little Caesars and get more pizza. And it's always the latecomers too. They got to get maddest the quickest. I'm like, you late. We started at 9 and you getting here at 11. And you got nerve to be mad because there ain't no food. I'm sorry, you weren't supposed to be here. But yeah, that turns real quick. Social faux pas, especially at a wedding. Especially at a wedding, because that's to the head. RSVP, all of that stuff is all set up. And they do have overages, just in case people want seconds. That's all part of the plan. And when you don't have enough, yeah, that looks bad. So of course she's gonna go to her son. This was interesting. I hadn't even thought about this before. Why did she go to her son? Why did she go to her son? Yeah, she's like, when they went, they wanted wine. The mother said unto Jesus, they have no wine. Yeah, I know. I haven't gotten there yet. But it's like the sons and his, the son and his friends came in and like, hey, is there any more wine? And she like, we have none. But she said it in a way that like made him respond in a certain way. And Jesus said unto her, woman, man, if I ever say, I'm 56 years old and I couldn't say that to my woman. Yeah, if I said that to my mom now, I'd probably get smacked. Come on. Jesus said unto her, woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. Yo. Okay. Sister Hall, can any of your kids say that to you? That is a resounding no. Yeah. Elder-elect Morris, could any of your kids say that to your wife, Sister Ruth? Woman. He just made a face. Yeah, right.
But according to the reading, that was not unrespectful for them to say that back in them days. It's more or less like a title or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it don't. Yeah, it definitely. Okay, you know what? I accept that culture. Right. Yeah, this culture will not accept that. This particular culture will not accept that. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that he, I guess that was the perfect timing for him to come in that culture. I think Mary, God might have to talk to Mary about that one, calm her down. He said it in this culture. His mother saith unto the servants, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. So in this one, what do we see about Mary in this context? We were talking about, this is the middle of the journey. So we're in the middle of the journey. So we saw the beginning where she's contemplative and she sort of kept all this information into herself, but never acted out. Never was unseemly or anything, or never boasted or anything. But what do we see in this particular, especially when we're talking about, you just gave me the cultural reference to this.
Going back to that verse, that previous verse, reading that Jesus, when he said, woman.
Right.
Jesus, I was going to say this, but he was letting her know that I'm in a different position now.
Gotcha. Right.
I'm Jesus now. I'm not just your son
anymore.
But I'm in, a different position.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Come on.
I think that now that Mary approaches him, she recognized who he is.
Right.
And she recognized his authority
Right.
that he had. She could have went to anybody, but she went to the master.
Right.
She recognized who he was.
Right.
She had to recognize who he was. Because he's the only one that can make wine, turn water into wine.
Right. That's why I asked that question. It's like, why would she go to his or mention that to her son? Because, it said they wanted wine, but she mentioned to him there was no more wine. As if he could do something about that because she understood who he was. And I think that's the contemplative part about it, is like she grasped that, well, I mean, you got an angel telling you this, that, and the other. You talked about how she believed. Did she believe? Yes. That's why she handled herself in a certain way. We're starting to see it all add up and stack on top of each other, and it starts to create a personality of this personality where she understood enough to remain faithful to what God told her and to take everything sort of almost in stride. Like, this is just part of the journey that I'm with my son. Because of who he is, I'm just part of the mechanism to create this Messiah. I'm not, I don't even think she thought she was all that special either, to be honest. The way she sort of carried herself, like the humility in which she carried herself, I think she understood it's like, I'm just the vessel. Yeah, this isn't, he's not mine. I'm just the vessel in which he came through. Yeah, he's the savior of the world. And think about that. Yeah, including myself. Even as his mother, I don't have that authority over him like that. We're now in a different space. And I kind of said that earlier. It's like, I'm in a different space with my adult children. One of them is married. And fathers know when you got daughters, I don't know why it shouldn't be different, because, for mothers with sons, it shouldn't be different. But it does kind of hit different. Because now I got to trust this guy to take care of this child of mine. Just saying that kind of gives me tics, and I've got to trust him to, come on.
One example just passed right by me, and we all remember Cecil Palmer.
Yeah.
When he was real young, he was, preaching and all that.
Yeah, right.
And his grandmother, he respected her as his grandmother, but
right.
she also respected him as a preacher.
Right.
She really, treated him, a little bit more respect because he was, preaching.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to bring that up because I kind of run into that situation where there was one time that I had to deal with my mom, and it had nothing to do with our relationship. It had to do with something with the church. And she said something to me where it made me understand the hierarchy. She's like, "You're an elder now." And I'm like, "But you're still my mom, so okay." She's like, "No, but you're an elder now." And so from that point on, our relationship changed just slightly. So it was like she saw that I have an authority that, like, I didn't really think about, I wasn't trying to lord it over her or anything like that. It's just like, I just didn't see the dynamic of it until she said it. So like in church, I'm Elder Chapman. At home, I'm Sean. Or her baby, her favorite son. And I'm like, I'm your only son. She's like, "I know, but you're still my favorite." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take that." But so it's like you get a glimpse of what she's dealing with. It's like, but it's in the extreme. It's like, this is the Messiah. This is the son, the man that was coming to save all of us, that Isaiah talked about. All the prophets had spoke about, this is my son. And you could tell that she handled the situation. I'm not sure every mother could do that. Yeah, right. Thank you, Sister Hall. That's why they weren't chosen, because he knew who she was, just like he knows who we are, and the mission that he has given us to fulfill within the mandate that we're supposed to spread the gospel. I know what I want you to do within that mandate. You have been chosen for that. And I mentioned about women that haven't had children but have mentored children. That's a calling. Come on.
Mary handled it because she prepared. When the angel came and told her, she was already getting ready for it.
Yeah,
so that's why she had no problem with it.
Right. Exactly. Again, you remember what we said? What I said about how sometimes God has to send the messenger to prepare us for those moments. Moses was called. That was that was an interesting way for Moses to be called. But it had to be interesting. It had to be miraculous, because he had to get his attention. Because we all know who Moses was. A hothead that had to run. I'm like, why would you pick a murderer? Not only a murderer, but dude that ran away. He was a fugitive. Come on now. And then he had to go right back to the same country that he committed a murder like 40 years ago. Those people didn't forget. Yeah, thank God. Yeah, exactly. Thank God for Jesus. Think about that. Escaped murderer. On the lam, there's some people that are still on the lam for like 50 years. They still looking for him for that murder.
So by you saying that, I look at my own self.
Yeah.
He chose me, but look
Right.
at all the stuff that I've done.
Right, exactly.
Look at all the mess that I've done.
Right.
People don't think that I should be where I'm at, but look at all the mess that I've done.
Right.
But thank God for mercy
And grace.
Amen.
That's the miracle. That grace wipes all of that stuff away. But with Mary, she was a virgin and betrothed. She didn't, as far as her record is concerned, she ain't do nothing. But he put her in a position where it was going to put her under scrutiny. Think about that. Look, not only are you going to have my baby, my son, but they're going to look at you funny because you ain't even married yet. Yeah. But I'm going to need you to do this for me. You would have put it in modern vernacular, conversational language. That's basically what he said. Look, I need you to do this for me, and I'm going to be with you, but it's going to be hard, but you can do it. And thank you. And did I mention that he's the same Messiah that the rest, all the prophets talked about? So you know what's going to happen to him in the end? Yeah, I'm going to need you to be there for that too. So it's not like she was surprised. Come on.
One thing that I always laugh about also is, where it says that Jesus was invited to this party.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was called to it, yeah.
And, Jesus could have came in and said a few other things other than enjoy himself.
Right.
Well, when I often tell this story, when I started coming to this church, and Bishop now Davis used to be out there preaching all the time in Portsmouth at the Naval Hospital. I used to say, man, what's that? Out there preaching all the time on the doorstep. And but once I got to know him, and he invited me to a bowling.
Oh, yeah. Right. I remember that.
And what went through my mind was, these brothers can't be having no fun because they in the church, But I had one of the best times of my life at that bowling, you know, because God was in it.
Yeah. All right.
It's like he was invited to this party. You know, God was invited to the party. He didn't go in there and say, hey, y'all need to cut all this out.
Right,
He
right,
just
right.
went in and enjoyed himself.
Right. You enjoyed the wedding.
Right.
All right. Say that again. Part of the process. Okay. Yeah. Because I was there. I remember Minister Morris when he first came in, or excuse me, Elder-elect Morris. I remember that. He had the plaits, cornrows. Yeah. And then one day he didn't. And I was like, okay. No one asked him to cut his hair. Yeah, Bishop Ronald Sewell did not ask him to cut his hair. None of the ministers, none of the deacons, nobody told him to cut his hair. Nobody told him to do anything. Nobody told him how to dress and what he was supposed to wear and all that, change anything about himself. But I think sometimes the change comes outwardly when we commit. We put that full commitment in. You know what I mean? It's like when you put the full commitment in, you fully understand where your position is. You change some things. Not to say that, oh, I had to, or I'm trying to fit in. No, it's I want a new look. I want a new outlook on life. You just change certain things. When people do that, when they want to make a change, there's some outward changes to their appearance as well. New haircut, new all of that. And you come out, it's like, this is me. And this is for me. It's not because of you. It's not for you. But it's for me because I need to make that change. That's why a lot of the habits that we used to have drop off. Think about that. Because if you could have dropped it off before, you would have. But now you have the ability to do so you just start shedding that stuff off. Sometimes it's not even a conscious thought. You just don't want to do it no more. I remember that. I was like, there were certain things I just did not want to do anymore. It wasn't worth it. It's like, I used to love going to the clubs. Why? Because I liked to dance and I liked music. But I didn't like the atmosphere. I hated the atmosphere. Because it was always something like, I'm like, we're supposed to be having fun, but there was always this underlying current of just like bad. Like, I always wondered why dudes had to come in strapped. I didn't understand that. I was like, dude, what did you expect? But then, you get people drunk and all the rest of that stuff. And, every now and then there's a fight or two. And I've been in a couple of them, a couple of them club fights. And I'm like, I didn't understand that. But then it got to a point, it's like, do you like the dance and music more than you like not being in, which is, are you willing to give it up? Because you don't like the atmosphere anyway, so why even bother? So I just stopped. It wasn't like I even made a thought about it. I just stopped doing it. I was like, nah, I don't want to go out. Nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Yeah. Then when you look back, you're like, oh, that was the Holy Ghost. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because if you could have done it before, you would have. Yeah. Yeah, I walk in places, no fear now. Yeah. All right.
I kept reading past John 2, 1 through 5. I kept reading 6 and 7.
Right.
And it said that the servants filled the bottles all the way up to the brim.
Right.
So Jesus theoretically couldn't add anything to it to make it wine. He transformed it.
Right.
And that's what I was looking at. He's transformed us.
Right. Filled up to the brim.
Right. He transformed us. He added a few things to it, but he literally transformed us.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening at that board.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that fact up, because that's a fact that sometimes people miss, is that it was already, and we're talking about casks. There are those big, huge wooden barrels with the I guess in their time it still was strapped with like brass and whatever. So you talk about these things are huge. filled up to the brim with just water. So like you said, he didn't add anything to it. He just changed it, transformed it, turned it from water to wine. And all of us are filled up to the brim with all kinds of stuff. And he changes it from, yeah. It's interesting. Thank you, Elder Morris. Bringing some. Yeah, right. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. The good stuff is, yeah, right. Every party, the good stuff is brought out. Yeah, because people want to, they want to flex. You bring out the $200, $300 bottle of whatever. Yeah, whatever your drink was back in the day. I know some of y'all still remember. Yeah, the good stuff. Yeah, you don't bring out, the aristocrat comes out last. Yeah. Yeah, you get the Jameson and the 800s and all the rest of that come out. Yeah, they come out first. The fancy bottled stuff on top of that. Yeah, you notice that. Yeah, they want to make a statement. So you bring out the good stuff first. And then so now all that's left is the water filled up to the brim, and he just changes it. But it's interesting, he still did it. He told his mom, it's not time. It's not my time, but he still did it. It's still my mom. She still holds that place in my life. So I'm still going to do certain things for her. Even though it's not my time, that's my mom. So she still held something special within his ministry as the man Jesus, and even as the divine Son of God. She still held a special place to him. So it's not like he didn't do it. He just like, look, it's not my time right now, Mom. I can't be, it's not. But, all right. All right, so now we get to the hard part, the hard moment that I wish upon no mother. Because that's one of those things where, as a parent, you don't want your children to go before you. But I know there's been some mothers out there that had to deal with that, where their child goes before them. And I remember watching my nephew Kier and his daughter's mother have to deal with that when Kiana passed. 5 years old. She was there. She was a nurse too at the time. And a lot of the signs she missed because the way Kiana was, you couldn't tell half the time she was having an asthma attack. So she missed certain signs, and then, she sort of held that against herself for a long time. But we find out there was a lot more going on that was it was just the tip of the iceberg with her. So, but I watched that and watched how devastating that was. And even to this day, they sort of still have to deal with that. I'm thinking about that. She would be probably now like almost 14 years old. All right. I never want to experience that. Sometimes I feel selfish about it, but I'm like, nah, I've seen it. I know what it looks like. I don't want to experience that. There's been other mothers that I've watched lose children too. I forgot about that. There's a couple other ones that we've, even in this church. Think about CJ. Yeah, so it's one of those things where you just watch and you're like, no, I don't want a part of that. Lord, forgive me for thinking like that. Nah, I don't want that. Yeah, and then to know that she knew this was coming because it had been foretold, it had been prophesied. that the Messiah will come and this is how he will be treated. And she had to sit there silently and watch her son be mistreated, lied on. Come on. You mothers out there, you mentors, if you any child that you've watched in any way, shape, or form, you see them getting lied on. I know Heather would be ready to fight. Shoot, my sister. Yeah. There's been a couple of times where, she didn't fight with words. But when it comes to her children, yeah, it's on. All right, so let's get into this. John 19:25 through 27. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. What's with all the Marys? Oh my God, I just got the name of that group. Mary. Wow. I was this old when. Oh man, that is hilarious. I'm sorry. Let me go back. Let me go back into teaching mode. John 19:25 through 27. 25. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple standing by, whom he loved, he said unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. And then he said it to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour the disciple took her unto his own home. He didn't leave his mother alone. But she had to watch him be persecuted and then crucified, and stood there every moment of the way. And she did it without saying anything. She wasn't even that old either. We're talking about, not even in her 60s yet. But think about that. So we go from her being young adult, maybe late teenager, being told by an angel, you're going to have this child, and he will be the Messiah, to having the child. And no, she didn't have the child in a manger because she was poor. It clearly states there was no room in the inn. Why? Because everybody was coming to the town. It literally like all the hotels are filled up. That's all it is. They got there a little late. It took them, a little bit of more time than normal, and they got there late. That's all. It wasn't because they were poor. So she's swaddling her baby. And again, swaddling, if you know, is just wrapping up the baby in a particular, for a long time, people try to make it sound like Joseph was a poor carpenter. You're not a poor carpenter. Sidebar. Carpenters were definitely not poor in this time period. Why? Because almost everything was either made out of stone or wood. It was just a blue collar job. That's all. It wasn't because he was poor. All right, back into the lesson. So she goes from that to being at the wedding and realizing her son is about to start his ministry. So now she steps back from being mother to being follower. And then again, she's brought back to being mother at his death. But he doesn't leave her without comfort. takes a disciple that he loves, says, woman, this is your son. Man, this is your mother. And right away, he took her in and took care of her like that was his own mother. But again, she had to watch this progression and never really said anything. That must have been, easy childhood. When you got a kid that don't commit no sin, I guess you could sit back and just watch. But and just watch that progression. I don't want to say she was a bystander either. She was there, but it was just, that's got to be an interesting position to be in, where you've got to watch him transition from being your son to being the Messiah of the world. You literally have to share your child with the world. The world. He's no longer just yours. He's the world's now. But he was never really yours in the first place. I think that's another thing that we have to realize as parents, is like, they're not really ours anyway. Yeah. We were just mandated by God to take care of this child and to raise him up, and then I take over. Well, I'm not saying he takes over like we just relinquished, but he's always been in there. But after this point, you do this, and I'll take him the rest of the way. Come on.
I know I couldn't even fathom the agony that she was probably going through, seeing her son on the cross and everything. But just reading some of the excerpts in the Bible and everything, she was told that she would also receive a pierce in her side. In other words, she would be, I believe it's in Luke 2:35, that a man named Simeon, 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 told her that she was also going to receive a pierce in her side. In other words, she was going to feel pain from all that agony and that grief and everything that she was going through.
And she carried it.
Right.
And again, I think that still goes back to what you were talking about before, Elder Ward, about when the angel came. I think in that moment, all of that was covered, because we don't see her change in any way, shape, or form. It's not mentioned anywhere that her faith was challenged in any way, shape, or form from that point on. And what we know about the Bible, when certain things happen that, we need to know, it is said. So I'm going to surmise that her faith didn't change, or else it would have been said. Because we know when Peter's faith got all jacked up, it was said. When Thomas, when all the other brothers, they ran. The jokers disappeared. It was said. Come on. Yeah.
It's Luke 2, it starts with verse 34, and it says, and Simeon blessed them and said unto Mary his mother, behold, this child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against. And verse 35 says, yea, a sword shall pierce through thy own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed.
All right. So again, she had to be prepared. So he always covered that. There was going to be, come on. Again, we know she knew who he was, and she was going to have to deal with that fact. And yes, you're going to feel pain. And you're going to be the one that feels pain that the entire world is going to feel, knowing this. Because once you come into the know about Jesus, I remember watching the, what is that? The movie. I can't think of the name of the movie now, about that was basically the Passion of Christ. Yeah, Passion of Christ. And I did the play. Matter of fact, I met my best friend at Assembly of God, and we were 1987, and we worked as the background for the stagehands for the Passion Play. They did it every year, and every year it just got better and better and better. And I remember watching the scene where we had to some of the crew had to erect the cross and set it into place with the actor on it, and it was that elaborate. So we watched, and I'm sitting there because we were doing other stuff. We were setting up other sets, and we watched that, and I'm just thinking about. Then I'm 17, and I'm thinking about it, and it hit me a little bit different than it did when I actually went to the movie theater at like 30 and saw it. When I was 17, I got a glimpse of what it would feel like. But when I saw it when I was like 30 and I was fully committed to my relationship with God, it suddenly hit me completely different. I was in tears. And there was not a dry eye in the house. Literally everybody that was there cried all through that. Because now you feel the full weight of that scene of him being beaten, because you got to think about it. The Romans did not want to kill him until he was on the cross. So they beat him within an inch of his life. Literally, that's where those terms come from. I beat you within an inch of your life. They made sure that he was battered, bruised, but still able to walk. They whipped him so bad that it was stripping skin off his back. And they hit him enough times, because if you hit over this amount, you end up killing people. So it's like 40 save 1. So if you go over the 40 lashes, you end up killing somebody. They had it. By his stripes we are healed. He was ripped open. His back was ripped open tore his flesh for our healing. Chastisement of our peace. All of those, you put that, you see that actually done to a human body to a point where it's just enough to keep him alive enough to walk that thing. The cross, come on, was like the weight of another man, but you've already beaten this guy down to a point where he couldn't carry it on his own. And you're the mother. And you've got to watch your son deal with that. And he has done nothing wrong. Matter of fact, he's done nothing but miracles for all these people. Yeah. But she kept quiet. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She didn't try to stop him. Because, I'm starting to think she knew this had to happen. But as a mother, come on. This has to happen? And you're okay with that? Sometimes it's hard to see the bigger picture when it comes to your children. It's very subjective. Come on, that's your child. I carried him for 9 months. That's my child. I know what God said. Yeah, and you got to watch him go through that. But yet, the same way he came in, her attitude then, the angel comes, yes, I accept it. Yes, I accept it. Yes, I accept it. Yes, I accept it. Humbly, without mumbling a word, every now and then she would say something, but it's the profound state of that, just thinking of that. Like I said, this changed my perspective on Mary. Because we always talk about that. What made her different? What made her different? God knew who she was and knew she was the right person for this mission. The right woman? Yeah, right one for the job. Just like everybody else that was picked up in the Bible, just like everyone that's here. You're the right person for that mission. Within the mandate, every one of us has a mission. So, yeah. I can see why some of our faith hold her in higher regard, in high esteem. I get it. I see it. I turned everybody silent and contemplative. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry I painted that picture. That was a hard picture, wasn't it? Just imagining that. There's a there's a song by one of my favorite groups. You know, I grew up with some of the guys in the group, and it's like, "What do you see?" And he talks about the crucifixion. Yeah, he's a gospel rap artist, and he did it, and it was like it when you hear it, and in the background you just hear the hammering of the nails and the chains and, you know, the whip and all the rest of that going on in the background as he's singing, you know, rapping that whole instance out. And he mentions Mary in there. He mentions all of that, all the stuff that was going on around, and every lash that he took and every punch that he took. And I'm still just sitting there and I'm thinking right now of Mary sitting at the cross looking up at her son. Yes, he's a Messiah, but he's still my son. And then he has the strength to recognize me as his mother and then make sure that I'm taken care of after he goes. That I'm not left comfortless. Yeah. Yeah, you keep saying. He said something about the gospel keynotes. I don't know. Yeah, go
It's a
ahead.
group.
Yeah, I know. I'm messing with you.
I was just thinking about, you know, how when they was crucifying Jesus and he was singing about, that's my son hanging on the cross.
Right.
And he was telling how he
Oh, yeah.
He was whipping me, and you hear all of that in the song, in the background, the music playing, and how they were beating him and their flesh tore from his bones. It make you think of how good God is to us. To see his mother see her son being crucified. He lost everything with the flesh torn from his bones and everything.
Yeah.
Was said
Do we
or
have any
something
more
was done
comments,
that
questions?
will encourage you to help you to make it through your week. We pray that God has an abundance in your life. So we're asking you to tune in, same place, same time, on next Sunday with the morning worship experience with the Herald. And here at the Herald, our bishop always says, let the light on the inside shine brighter than the light on the outside.